Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Bonjour. Mheshimiwa Katibu Mkuu, Bwana Alfred, Wizara ya Biashara, Nicolas Dufourc, mkurugenzi wa BPI, ndugu yangu James, wana biashara wote, mabibi na mabwana, habari ya asubuhi. Kwanza, ningependa kukaribisha wote hapa Nairobi kwa hafla muhimu sana. And I'm doing it in Swahili, and then I'll tell our guest of honor to officially welcome you. But mine is just to welcome you all and commend BPI to have chosen Nairobi, Kenya, for I think what is one of the finest events, bringing together entrepreneurs, private sector, and I think you've done it only a couple of times. And I think choosing Kenya, Nairobi speaks volume about your dedication, your priority for entrepreneurship and supporting the private sector. So I'd like first to congratulate BPI for joining this, for making this event. So pongezi, piga makofi tafadhali. And I take it as a sign, and certainly being the French ambassador here for 2 years, I will certainly support it. But Nairobi or Kenya is a special place because you have a very innovative, dynamic, linked to finance, private sector. And I think we heard inspiring words from Dr. James and Equity Bank. And by the way, I like to say that when France and President Macron decided to unveil an initiative called Choose Africa, which was aiming at supporting the private sector in Africa, because we believe, I think, that the private sector is ultimately transformative. And especially in Kenya, I think the society is being transformed mainly, sorry, Bwana PS, I know you represent the government, but the private sector is the agent of transformation in Kenya. And so when President Macron said, let's do this Choose Africa initiative, naturally Equity was our partner. And not only as a financial partner, but also as an agent of supporting the SMEs. And so I challenged Dr. James. I said, you're a banker, but I want to know, and I think Nicolas Dufourc alluded to that. We want to see things on the ground. Mimi, ninataka kuona kitu kwa ground. And then I challenged James, and he said, no problem. And he was an eye-opener. James brought me to some of the projects that Equity, through this partnership with Proparco, which is the financial arm of AFD. And he didn't bring me to a boardroom like this one, with people in ties and nice shoes. No, he brought me to Dandora. And obviously the Kenyans, where's Dandora. But for the French delegation, it's the largest dumping site in Nairobi. And he showed me what, through this program, a young Kenyan entrepreneur did. So this guy created a company whereby he hired 500 Kenyans picking up plastic bags in the dump site and recycling them through a machine, adding value, and reselling recycled plastic to hospitals. So I think I'm just telling you this because I think it's a very telling story on the sense of partnership and on the impact of the private sector. So thank you, James, for being a partner and Equity Bank on that. I will call on stage also Bwana PS, and we can have a further conversation. But let me just say that we're very happy as France that this event is taking place now. As Nicolas Dufourc has said, France is the 4th investor in this country. And as you all business people, you like numbers, I believe. So what does it mean? It means that we have in the French Chamber of Commerce now more than 220 companies here. And Buona PS we were discussing, if you look at the trade balance between France and Kenya, it's in favor of France. But as Nicolas Dufour said, that's not the value of the French proposition. We're mainly an investor. So France being the fourth investor in this country, through its company, for its investment, is creating 36,000 direct jobs in this country through investment. So I think it is significant. And we start from I think, a very good base. We were discussing with Buona PS. Perhaps it is not known enough, but France is the first bilateral partner of Kenya in the domain of energy, in all fields, from generation, transmission. France is obviously big in agriculture, and Kenya being also an agricultural powerhouse, the agribusiness is a natural avenue for that. But France is also a place for tech. And so we like to see French entrepreneurs coming to Kenya, partnering with Kenyan entrepreneurs in that field. Buona PS, I want to invite you on stage, I think, to introduce you. I think I must say you've been critical in negotiating and finalizing the economic partnership agreement between Europe and Kenya. And I think we won't have this agreement without your involvement, without your energy, without your dynamism. And I think it's an extra framework whereby French companies, European companies, Kenyan companies can look at more trade relations. It is also, I believe, an important platform also to have a structured dialogue when it comes to business environment. So, Buona PS, with that little remarks, I want to welcome you on stage. Thank you very much.
Bonjour. Ça va? Mko poa? Habari asubuhi. Niponge nisiponge. Okay, anyway. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you to our conveners of this event, the BPI and also the French Chamber, our hosts, the Africa Legal Network, to the founder and CEO of Equity Bank. It's also a pleasure to have you here. But of course, it is the entrepreneurs, the business people, the traders, the financiers, the investors, and all of you that do the transactions that you do every single morning, every single evening. It is you that's driving all the transactions. And a good morning to you, and give yourselves a round of applause for everything that you do. So, because today's theme, and as eloquently done by the previous panel, was all about entrepreneurship, maybe I will focus a few comments around entrepreneurship as well. And entrepreneurship, as I see it, is not just a domain in the private sector, but increasingly the public sector, we also have to act as entrepreneurs. And we have to see our role as providing the conditions for private sector to thrive, and we have to see our role as providing the conditions for businesses to be able to grow. So I'll share a few examples of some of the entrepreneurial style work that we have been doing in the public sector to basically strengthen French and Kenyan relationships, and also globally. As Excellency the Ambassador noted, we have just concluded negotiating the economic partnership agreement between the European Union and Kenya, one of the first in the continent. And this is something that's extremely important from an entrepreneurship standpoint, because we have now guaranteed on a permanent basis tariff-free, duty-free access for Kenyan goods to the 27-country, 13 trillion euro market for our goods on permanent terms. And what does that mean? It basically means that from a trade standpoint, we are telling the world that we are the place to be invested into. If you want to connect to global supply chains, we are telling the world that locating in Kenya gives you access to a strong market. We are telling industry that if you want to base your operations and have access to good markets, you should be here. And why is this something extremely important to us and to you, the entrepreneurs? is that through a mix of opening markets and through a mix of then the reforms that we also have to do to optimize the operating conditions, then we believe that we should then be able to sell Kenya as a destination, which is a true gateway to the continent. What are a few other market access work that we've done? In the next few months, we are now closing a trade agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Kenya as well, in view of the strong partnership that we are seeing in the Middle East as well, which will make it a bit more predictable for us to access that 450 billion market. At the same time, we are having conversations with others like the United States and so on and so forth. But within the continent, we have also guaranteed market access to the African Continental Free Trade Area and with markets such as South Africa through a tripartite free trade area. But market access is not all. You need to open markets, but we also need, as James mentioned earlier, to create the conditions also for smaller parties to be able to thrive. And therefore, some of the areas now that we are very keen to work on is to develop a commodities exchange, through which we're in the final stages of getting the licenses through. And we hope that this can be a private sector-led initiative. Already we have people subscribing into that. And the reason we are doing this kind of initiative is because we want every farmer, every trader to be able to get commodities aggregated and to be supplied into marketplaces and internationally. And this creates lots of opportunities for French companies, for Kenyan companies, and others. Agricultural infrastructure needs to improve in this country. We need more grain bulk handling facilities. We need to be able to use technology to be able to sell and buy goods. And I think that all these reforms are going to be able to create the conditions that we need. And finally, more or less, I'd like to point to the fact that the government of Kenya is also aware about the changing structure of the economy. We are still agriculturally driven, but we are seeing very large parts of the economy becoming extremely important for our overall growth. Technology is one of that. And just as I was speaking earlier, if you look at our export performance, you will see that Kenya is exporting just about $7 billion worth of goods, and a lot of effort has gone into creating that infrastructure. But if you look at our services sector, we are exporting now just about $6 billion worth of services. What does that tell you? The services export and the goods export are almost the same, but on a net basis, we are exporting more services than we are importing services, yet for goods, it's the reverse. And that's why businesses like Equity Bank, those that are in the financial services sector, will tell you that we are now encouraging the growth of financial services into the region. And I hope that with time, we shall also encourage the growth of other services, for example, in the retail sector, to accompany the banking sector, so that then we can create the basis for Kenyan goods and services to be able to be supplied in the continent. And when that happens, we then shall be able to create a very good business proposition, not just to French companies interested in goods, but French companies that are also interested in investing and selling services on the continent. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here this morning. We encourage your entrepreneurship. I hope you're loving Nairobi, and I hope that you've exchanged business cards with the person next to you, and that you're going to have a prosperous year in 2024 and 2025. Have yourselves a good morning. Thank you.